Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for today's installment of the PENC webinar series. My name is Katie Cox. I am the PENC Membership Director. Today we will hear from the graduates of the PENC Leadership Institute. Please use the chat box if you have any technical difficulties, and I will try my best to assist you. We will take questions at the end of each 10-minute presentation. Use the questions box to type in your questions, and I will read those out loud for you. Now I'll turn it over to Rich St. Dennis, the instructor of the PENC Leadership Institute.
Hi, everybody out there. Thanks, Katie, for organizing this as always, and also helping us rehearse ahead of time. I'm happy to see that we have 26 people online with us, as well as our presenters. I see some familiar names in the advanced roster to include 9 graduates of our program. There's a John, there's a Kristen, there's a Monica, there's a Susan, Lydia, Sean, John, and Drew. Kenneth, I think I covered most of those. And we have companies representing, people representing Duke Energy, Ramey Kemp, McAdams, Jacobs, Friesen McNichols, Terracon, McKim & Creed, Beacon Development, Southern Construction, and also McNair Construction. Special thanks to Terracon for being the host for our Leadership Institutes and their offices in Charlotte this past year. We've got some interesting presentations for you, but before we do that, let me give you a quick overview of the Leadership Institute this past year. So let me just roll the slideshow here. It takes less than 2 minutes and give you a sense of what we did. Our class this year had 13 folks, and here you see their smiling faces. We've had 7 prior classes, a total of 96 people. Every year we meet for about 60 hours. We work pretty hard, and people give a lot of presentations. Many of them are impromptu. No time to organize, speak off the cuff. We do a few fun things as well. And the paper airplane exercise is all about goal setting. And every year people are happy to hear former graduates of our program. There was Susan, who may be online with us today. I've been really pleased with the cohesion of each class. This class was really tight as well. And we worked them hard, but they came through in the pinch. And they now join a distinguished group. Here was our very first class back in 2011. I heard from one of them just last week. And it's been such a professional pleasure for me to work with all these folks. I love working with engineers. You're smart and you work hard. Thank you for that. So we're about ready for our first presentation. Daniel Brown at Jacobs, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thanks, Rich, for introducing me. My name is Daniel Brown. I work for Jacobs Engineering. My presentation today will be discussing enhancing the Jacobs Career Network. So the Jacobs Career Network is a very important part of office culture and just the whole Jacobs firm in general. And, you know, it was a very exciting project to be involved with, and I was happy to continue my involvement, but also to just kind of try to grow it for the Charlotte office. And, you know, the situation really is just as we were kind of gearing up with a lot of activities and plans and brainstorming sessions with the various players, obviously our world got turned upside down by the coronavirus or COVID-19. I kind of knew it was coming, but I didn't expect it to be quite as severe and as swift of a change as what happened really as it did. And I'll leave out the how for now about the career network enhancement, but you know, overall, I'd say we still wanted to do as much as we could because it's important to really cultivate those professional skills for people, organize, and many of our people that were very interested in participating and helping just had their whole life kind of turned upside down. That's what that last graphic really um, demonstrates or represents, that, you know, all of a sudden a lot of us maybe were becoming full-time teachers at home or daycare, unexpected daycare duties that really kind of just threw everything for a loop. So the plan was to organize external and internal events. For external events, we often do happy hours, we do sporting event outings, 5K races for charity. One of the 5K races that we had set up was the 2020 Water for People 5K here in Charlotte, and we had already had people paying the down payment and getting our race team together, and we were all excited about that one. That one got unexpectedly canceled, of course, and we also like to just do community volunteering, internal learning sessions. We use the office for a lot of our activities because we can kind of schedule a lot of events during lunch sessions. It's easy to get a lot of participation in the middle of the day for people to kind of break away from the, you know, the usual doldrums of life and work. And the other part of the main part of the plan was really recruitment, trying to get other people involved, but also influencing others and getting their participation and getting them to help. Because even though I am one of the main organizers, it really is a team effort, and you know, we need a lot of help to kind of get things done. So in terms of what was actually done, we did do one external happy hour for this calendar year before COVID-19 broke out, but we also did some virtual happy hours. And here's one of our, I took a screenshot of this just last week when we had one, got some people together, and people actually did share their screen and their pictures, which was great to actually have some FaceTime with people and get to know people a little bit on the outside, not just normal day-to-day talk in the office. We had a hockey night. We had good participation at that. People are excited to kind of get out. We did this right, I think it was end of February. It was nice. Go to a Charlotte Checkers game, get people out and about. Then we had some brainstorming sessions for tips and tricks. We were calling it tips and tricks. They were really kind of lunch and learns about different topics at work that might be helpful for people about, you know, learning how to use OneNote or different IT tricks that just kind of help streamline their day. And then we were also thinking about quarantine bingo, where we'd actually do some bingo sessions and people would be, or people would actually win some Jacobs Engineering swag as part of the kind of initiative, or what am I trying to say? Try to get them to really help and want to do the bingo and participate. So give them a little bit of a reward. So obviously we had a lot of adjustments. Everything was virtual. So there was a lot of pros and cons for that. Some of the pros are obviously cost savings. We didn't spend nearly as much money on lunches or tickets or various things that we do outside the office. But more importantly, we get to see more of the personal side of people for when we actually do some of these virtual events. People are at their house, maybe dressed more casual, a little bit more laid back. Maybe you see some kids run in and out of the picture and help participate unexpectedly in some calls. And sometimes it's a mentoring boost. I've heard from some people that, they feel like because they're more proactive, they're more inclined to actually reach out and talk to people that they normally don't, just because they're not quite so focused at work in the cubicle, or they feel like they need to reach out just to get some kind of FaceTime or time to talk to people. In terms of cons, obviously we had lower attendance than usual for some of our more recent virtual events. We couldn't use the office facilities, so you have to rely on doing everything through Microsoft Teams generally. It can be a little bit harder to connect to people because a lot of people are working very unusual hours, either mornings, late at nights, weekends. And for some, it's a little bit of a loss of mentoring because a lot of people really need that face-to-face contact to kind of get in touch with each other. In terms of the next steps, really contemplating like in-person events with social distancing. I know some companies have already had happy hours or company picnics at various parks, and they try to space out. That could be a little bit challenging, could be a little wary for people. I don't really want to put people in a uncomfortable situation, so that's something we're contemplating. Another thing is to really kind of reach out and just unexpectedly ping people on Teams, maybe do a quick call to encourage some proactive interactions, surprise them, and then try to influence others to do the same thing, to just kind of reach out and surprise people and get people talking to each other that normally don't if they're just at home working from home. Then of course we have to really just adjust to the new normal because it might be a while. And maybe lower our expectations about overall participation, but don't lower expectations too low that that you don't think it's important. It's still a very important thing to do. In terms of lessons learned, I think the biggest one is people really miss in-person communication interactions. I know not everybody does, but I think the majority of people really do miss that. And working from home constantly, there's a lot of people who just these days don't really hardly see anybody. And there's also a lot of people that are working very, very late at night because that's the only time they can kind of get away from their children. And so they're turning into vampires, and then they're feeling extra stress and anxiety. And people's time is precious. There's a lot of people who were very happy to help do a lot of these things and really get involved. But, when it came time to do it now in this environment, they're like, oh, I don't have time for that. I'm so stressed for my time already. I can barely get, my work done as it is. And so, naturally people are going to kind of put certain activities down on like the lowest of their priority list. So it's kind of hard to kind of get them to really want to participate. And what I've learned about myself, well, I have learned that I can work from home. It's not as bad as I thought it was, but at the same time, I do miss going into the office. The cubicle life is, it's nice to have a little bit of camaraderie with your coworkers, but also it gives you a lot of focus at work. And, for me, getting that focus away from a noisy home environment with little kids running around is precious. And I really, really miss that aspect. And I think just being in the office around people, talking to them nonchalantly around the water cooler or in the break room or outside for walks that we do at our office park are ways to really encourage people to really participate in the career network activities and grow the company plan for that as a whole. And that is something that we miss. So I'll open up and see, does anyone have any questions about the overall project and what we were trying to achieve?
We do have one question. Were you getting a diverse group of participants, or was it the same people participating every time?
I would say the group of participants that we had were generally the same for the most part every time. I mean, ideally, it would be nice to kind of reach out and get a greater diversity of people, but typically it is pretty much the same people most of the time.
Okay, we're almost at the 10-minute mark. Daniel, final thought?
I just had this quote from Lao Tzu, be content with what you have, rejoice in the way things are when you realize there's nothing lacking. The whole world belongs to you. It's an ancient Chinese philosopher for Taoism, and I just think the importance of this quote is just feel grateful for what we have, staying at home with the loved ones, and realize that nothing's lacking despite everything turning upside down a bit for us.
Daniel, thank you. That's an outstanding presentation. I love that quote at the end, so appropriate. Thank you so much. Let's move on to our next presenter. We've got David Eisenberg with NCDOT. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rich. So did anybody know that for $1,000, and for every $1,000 that you could spend on a home remodeling project, you could net around $6,500 worth of return? I sure enough didn't know that when I started this home remodel project, but I did learn it. My name is David Eisenberg, and my wife and I are taking on a home remodeling project for our first home that we are extremely excited about. And my project is creating and leading a construction team. So our current situation is we purchased a 1950s house from a family member, so very cheap. And our plan was to put our money into remodeling it, making it what we want. So the photo on the left will show you that we've completely gutted the house. It's down to bare studs at this point in time. The ceilings have been removed, and we're really excited about turning this into our dream home. And our expectation, which is the photo on the right-hand side, which is basically a magazine quality home. This is what my wife wants. We've discussed it a lot. She's put a lot of input into the design of it, and I can't wait to really get deeper and deeper into this project. So to start off with our project plan, the whole thing started with a vision. We just sit down and discuss what we wanted for our home, what kind of aspects we wanted. We looked at the house that we had and what we could possibly do. And not only with our vision, but the kind of people that we wanted to have working with us. People that were local, people who shared our commonalities, people who were hardworking and motivated. So we took our vision and we kind of picked a team to build it on. Our team, of course, was not only just the design side, but the construction side. And my side was more working with the construction people. That's what I love to do. But we chose a team. We put together a group of contractors that we felt confident in after discussing things with them, going over what we wanted and making sure that they were as invested in it to get it done as we were. And so we took those two things. We took our vision that we had, and we took this team that we put together, and we built a team-based plan. So we sat down and talked to our contractors about who needed to come first, who came second, who couldn't work without the other one. And we really sat down and began to elaborate on that and build a way to move forward with this project. And overall, what our plan is all here for is to get what my wife calls an HGTV quality home for our family. That is what she wants. So this is our progress so far. It's a few photos that we've done. This is a lot of help from friends and family. Mostly so far, not too many contractors have really come through, but we've added a few things. We've replaced some rotten areas. We've removed the paneling in this home. I can see we've closed up some doorways and stuff like that. So we're really excited about learning a lot of this process ourselves as we go through. So our progress is in the written version. We have installed a new closet. 1950s houses don't typically have a lot of closet space in them like they do in new homes today. So we installed a 8-foot wide closet for storage. We removed a lot of exterior doors. This house had been built onto more than once. And therefore, we got left with about 6 exterior doors for some reason. Those doors were taking up valuable floor space and area and wall space that we wanted to get rid of. So we removed a few of those. We fixed a lot of rotten areas. We replaced the roof first thing. and those rotten areas were replaced. We had some friends actually come in and help, some contractor friends, not our contractor, but we repaired the ceilings. We have beautiful shiplap ceilings. They're extremely expensive if you want to try and put them in your home, I've been told. And luckily we were gifted these, and we plan on refinishing them and using them. We built a master shower. This house was originally a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. And we are actually adding an additional master bedroom and master bath, which is an exciting point for my wife and I. And we removed some windows, and we're going to remove and replace all the windows at some point in time. So our adjustments with everything that's been going on, number one is our schedule. Our schedule kind of blew apart as soon as March hit. We were moving forward great. We had a lot of good things going for us. Then all of a sudden the schedule got just thrown out the window as far as funding with the banks and getting our contractors. Everybody was no longer working in the offices, so it slowed a lot of things down, as well as contractors being kind of wary about coming in and out of people's homes or being multiple crews in the same building at the same time. So the scheduling aspect has really hurt, but we are moving forward with the best we can. We finally got our money. Our loan actually took about 3 extra months just because there was nobody in the banks working. Our meetings have changed. I'm dealing with small town contractors, people who don't take well to technology. My contractor writes everything down on a standard legal pad and hands it to us most of the times, but he's the guy I wanted for the project. So that's a big adjustment to us. Although some people do use email, we are able to do Skype meetings or visual meetings here and there, but mostly it's phone calls or conference calls between the people. So what's next for us is we want to get all our contractors in. They've all been notified to start planning to come towards, to begin working. We need to finish purchasing our products and finishings. We've been kind of wary about going out and buying things, going into stores lately because of what's going on. So we need to continue with that. We know we're going to have some unforeseen problems, knowing that this is a 1950s home. We haven't found all of them yet, so we're going to deal with those as they come around. But the most important thing for us, and the one we want, of course, is to celebrate. We want to celebrate in our new home. That is what we look forward to. So our lessons learned: you can never plan for a worldwide pandemic. I'm sure everybody knows that. It just threw us for a loop, but we have really strived to make it work out. Anyway, small town contractors don't embrace technology. They are small town contractors like I'm dealing with. They aren't like our big contractors up here. Email is the max on what most of these guys will do. But we have, dealt with that, and we're doing our best by, with telephones and meeting in person sometimes, but one at a time. So leadership is in every situation, no matter how small. I've learned that through this, that it's amazing. Sometimes the smallest things, you need to have a leader to make a decision, or think they'll get out of hand. And the time it takes to develop a strong plan, that's so important. Luckily, we were given a large amount of time, which I'm sure not everybody's always blessed with. But at the same time, our strong plan, our vision, putting together a strong team is what's made this really, really great. So that's basically all I have right now. We did want to be in the house. Currently, we are not. We're highly delayed. We were actually planning on being in by June, but we are, once again, still moving forward, still trying to get there. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
I don't see any questions that have come through.
All right. Well, I do appreciate it. It's been great with this class, and I've learned a lot.
Thank you very much, David. Excellent presentation. And maybe you can come down to Atlanta and be a contractor for our next home project.
Yes, sir. I hope to learn enough that I can do that.
I loved how you took something from your personal life and you're able to apply the processes that we covered in the Leadership Institute, creating vision, creating a team, monitoring progress, making adjustments. Those are the key elements of leadership. Thank you for that presentation.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. And of course, if any of you out there have questions, you're more than happy to, you're more than welcome to go ahead and type them out, and we may have a couple minutes at the very end. Okay, we are right on schedule. Let's go on to our next presenter. We have Carrie Rodriguez in Gastonia, North Carolina. Carrie, good morning. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Trying to advance my screen. There you go. Great place, great people, and great promise. The city of Gastonia has upheld this motto for over 140 years. And now with new development and redevelopment opportunities taking off, the place, people, and promise are really the greatest for Gastonia. Revitalization is taking off around our downtown area, and the southeastern portion of the county is exploding with development. With all of this on our radar, our workload is impressive, and looking ahead, we don't see it slowing down, as we will certainly need improved infrastructure to support this growth. My name is Carrie Rodriguez. I'm a project manager for the city of Gastonia. I'm a civil engineering graduate from UNC Charlotte and spent the first 18 years of my career with the City of Charlotte's engineering department. For the last 4 years, I've been working with the City of Gastonia as a project manager. During this time, I received my project management certificate and I've attended PENC's Leadership Institute. When I began my career with the City of Gastonia, I was handed several projects in piles, each in a different phase, some in planning, some in design, and some stalled out on a shelf with permits and funding expiring. And let's not forget the emergency repair or political projects always popping up at the most inconvenient times. I went from working in Charlotte with a staff of hundreds to a staff of some. With minimal support, I leaned heavily on my Charlotte experience and my Charlotte relationship, and I muddled my way through the projects and created a sense of organization for myself. I got projects that had stalled back on track, and I thought I was managing my other projects well. There were weeks where it felt like I was playing a game of whack-a-mole and couldn't get any traction or sink my teeth into any of my projects. Between working on my projects, fielding random hot projects, constantly updating management on where we were with everything, and always chasing information that should have been readily accessible, I was frustrated. Management was frustrated and wanted to know why our projects were taking so long, and my coworkers were frustrated. I initially tried to implement a monthly project update document, but there just wasn't enough time or resources to sustain that. And I noticed my coworkers were feeling the stress of this culture as well. Our morale was low and working in silos became the norm. A statement that I highlighted in an article we read in Leadership Institute was, burnout is not a function of work volume, but rather of feeling controlled and powerless. If I felt like this, and my coworkers did too, I knew something had to be done. And because of my experience, I knew something could be done to improve our work environment and how we delivered projects to the city of Gastonia. When I looked at the list of possibilities for my culmination project, I knew instantly I would lead an existing team to study and improve specific work-related process in my organization, train and motivate the rest of the organization to follow that process, and monitor progress and make adjustments along the way. I knew I had the tools from my experience in Charlotte and my project management classes to make things better, more efficient, and organized. And now I had Leadership Institute to help me develop the communication and emotional skills that I needed to implement what to me seemed like obvious improvements. In the short term, I would create a project initiation document in combination with a way to actually schedule our projects and monitor those schedules. In long term, we would eventually have a project management process. I knew I definitely had homework to do. I couldn't just approach the current managers with an idea and expect it to fly. I knew I needed to get focused and set my direction, so I thought about a SMART goal. Being the new kid on the block, I had a long road ahead of me to build trust and rapport. And I knew I needed to influence management to accept an idea that was very foreign to the way things have always been done. And if successful, I would need to plan on how to implement the new processes and how to coach my coworkers. My SMART goal was by July 1st, we will have tools in place to define and track projects and create reports for management in order to more effectively plan resources and be more transparent about project schedules to City Council and our citizens. I will collaborate with 3 of my associate project managers that will be end users of these tools, as well as our project administrator and construction manager. To build trust and rapport with my city engineer and my department director, I just simply began having conversations with them. They would voice their frustrations with always being asked why projects took so long, and I would actively listen and tell them I had the tools to help. Through the Leadership Institute, we learned that mature, trusting relationships and genuine rapport are the foundation for all of our efforts as leaders. I became very aware of my character at work and how I presented myself at meetings. I had no problem being open, taking accountability and admitting mistakes, and being loyal to my department as I managed my projects. I asked questions to get input and show an effort to learn others' communication styles and build their confidence and affirm that they were doing good work. I was empathetic to workload and the balance of resource availability. I tried to let management know that we were partners in working toward a common goal. So I don't have to go over this again, but it did disrupt the rhythm of work. Conference calls and billions of emails, or what seems like billions of emails every day, are not exactly conducive to building that personal rapport with folks, but we have made some progress. Since January, I've created a timesheet for all of our engineers to use so that we can see where we're spending our time. We have a draft project initiation document, and by the end of July, we'll have a schedule template that shows typical activities and durations. We'll take this to our city engineer for review, then to our department director, and if they agree with the template, we'll begin using it for all new projects. I'm hopeful we'll be able to look back after a year and more to always be able to see how long it's actually taking us to complete our projects and allow us to adjust our workflows. And of course, to efficiently answer City Council and the citizens when asked about the status of our projects. As far as an overall process goes, this will take years, but as a small organization with big projects on the horizon, I think it's going to be critical. Moving forward, I'll just continue to work with my associates and try to understand exactly what management, City Council, and the citizens expect. We will work toward reshaping them to accept that we need a process in place to be more efficient and measurable, and we need to be accountable for those processes. Of course, if we're successful, we will express appreciation for their patience and support while we build this ongoing strategy to be a more accountable and transparent organization. And of course, we'll be able to answer why are projects taking so long? There were a lot of lessons learned, but a pretty big lesson that I learned from PENC's leadership class is that leadership requires passion, tools, and practice, and it takes time. Now, I'm definitely not a patient person, but Rich taught us that 20% of our leadership development is assessing our abilities, attending training, reading and hearing about leadership. But 80% of our leadership development is applying the lessons we learned and getting feedback for our efforts. President John F. Kennedy said, "Leadership and learning are inseparable to one another." So, are there any questions for me today?
Carrie, I've got one for you. What kind of platforms did you use to stay in touch with people, and how quickly did they get on board with it?
Well, since March, we've done a lot of Turbo Bridge conference calls and shared emails, basically. I do go into the office about once a week. If I need to meet with someone face to face, we'll go to a large conference room and sit at opposite ends of the table to discuss things.
Thank you for that. We're almost out of time, so let's go to our final thought.
Well, as I look back at my experience in the Leadership Institute, I'm grateful that the class opened my eyes to recognize and appreciate those that served our communities before me, my past managers and peers that influenced me, inspired me, and made me want to be a better public servant, and have encouraged me to help others to be successful. Now, there are many versions of the final thought that I have up on the screen, but remember, leadership is not about being the best. It is about making everyone else better. Thank you.
Love that final thought, Carrie. Thank you so much for that, and love how you have applied all the lessons to leading others there in the city of Gastonia and the people on your team. Okay, we are right on track. Let's go to our next presenter. We have Mike Fendrick. Mike, how are you doing? Are you ready to go?
Mute is off. I believe I shared my screen. Has it come up yet?
Yes.
Okay.
You are live.
Great.
And online.
Well, my name is Mike Fendrick. I am the North Carolina Operations Manager for the firm ATCS, located in Cary. I have been in the engineering profession about 30 years, previously working for a large international firm and now working for a much smaller firm. One of the reasons I joined the Leadership Institute was really to make that transformation from a manager to a leader. I think as engineers, it's very easy to focus on the management side and the spreadsheets, et cetera, but I really wanted to learn to be a leader, and I really want to thank Rich for all his work and efforts in that way. And I'm just going to start with my presentation is about leadership in a crisis. And in going to that, I found myself thinking often of probably the greatest engineering movie of all time, Apollo 13. Sometimes you have your team together, you have all the boxes checked, the technology is there, and boom, things are going exactly to plan. But then problems come up, or in this presentation, crises come up, and you have to respond. And it's that response that shows what our strength as a leader is, whether it's of the entire operations or among your small team. So what was our problem with at ATCS, and what was the crisis? Well, first, ATCS, we're a mid-sized civil engineering firm. We have about 250 employees and 8 offices across the mid-Atlantic, much smaller than the firm I had come from. But we offer civil engineering services across the spectrum with a specific focus on transportation design, planning, and construction services. I opened our North Carolina branch in 2017, now about 3 years ago, and had the mission to enter the North Carolina market and to grow an office, building upon my 30 years of local experience. And after 2.5 years, things were going great. We were meeting and exceeding our 5-year plan. We had multiple NCDOT contracts as a prime, not just a sub, and we were exceeding our revenue projections. And what I was really proud of is that we had a strong, well-balanced team. We had a good balance across the team in terms of disciplines as well as levels of experience. We were working together effectively. And then we got hit by 2 back-to-back crises. The first one was more of a business one. The budget issues at NCDOT started in mid to late 2019. The pause, work slowed down. There truly was a pause, but the pause kind of went into overdrive at the winter of 2020, and NCDOT started shutting down and extending delays on projects. And we had to do a lot of adjustments. But then we got hit by COVID-19 just as everyone else had. And that really marked a continuation of the business problems, but the work from home really became a people issue and a people opportunity, I guess. But the business impacts of these crises, you know, projects were slowed down, delayed, and even halted. So our response was to really try to implement a work share program with our primarily Virginia offices. But being a small firm, that was kind of a new thing. It had been done in small things. Technical impacts. We now had to learn about new clients and procedures. People had to relearn what they knew already to do it for the right a new client. And IT and technology, we had to do some changes in software and get our systems fast enough to be able to work over the distance. But the people impacts, our staff locally had to adjust and be flexible. We also had to work with the technical staff and PMs in other offices in getting them to share work. Also find out that IT had different priorities in a project they were working on, and that was their true focus. And one of the things that really impressed me was our corporate leadership focused on the employees over the company, viewing that as what needed to be done, and that we truly, our company mission was still the same, to grow in North Carolina, because we were trying to diversify, not just in terms of disciplines, but also in diversifying geographically as a company. So how do you effectively lead people in a business crisis? First, you have to know yourself. Your first reaction is to fall back to your basic instinct. I fell back in terms of wanting to do that management side and find the answer in a spreadsheet. And I had to push myself out to a more leadership position. With the local staff, you had to play the reactions of people, but the response in general was kind of predictable. Engineers have gone through business crises before. You can look at the personalities, and you got a kind of you understood what was coming. Our local staff had to buy into the work share philosophy, and you also had to deliver some tough messages as the crisis went on. With the technical staff in other offices, they were reluctant to work share. You know, loss of control, easier to keep local. A lot of the issues I've had in the past with work. And then IT was focused on a different priority. So they, after some discussions and really working with them, we were able to make some adjustments and get what we needed done, maybe not as fast as we had wanted. And I also had to engage with the corporate leadership. You had to get the practice leads and operations managers to understand the need for work share. We had to adjust our business metrics, where now we actually have one that shows the amount of work share from different offices. And we required some of those technology fixes. But then we got the COVID, which, how do you effectively people in a non-traditional crisis, things that people are just not used to? The business items were actually kind of easy. Messages were a little harder, and the situation was more dire, but we've gone through that. The real thing was the working from home. How do we make things work and continue to be efficient? Our local staff, one thing, reactions were unpredictable and more intense, whereas I could predict a little bit better on some employees what their response to a budget issue was. With COVID, you had some people who truly were fearful of what was going on, and others that were almost indifferent. You also had to motivate people to work from home. It becomes difficult with family and kids and everything, and everyone had to find their space. I also realized that there were a lot of generational differences, especially now as we start to return to the office. Now, technical staff in other offices, just like us, they were dependent on Teams meetings, Zoom meetings for communication. But with remote work, becoming the norm, their attitudes on work-share changed. Suddenly, we were helping them out and they were helping us out because we were all working with the same limitations and platforms. I also learned you have to appreciate efforts. I kind of mentioned about IT's other priority. It had been shifting the company and all our data to the cloud. They finished that about 2 weeks before COVID happened, and as a result, the whole company was able to keep moving with relatively little efficiency issues once they all were at home. And the corporate leadership, what I learned is a balance between coordination and over-coordination. Initially with WorkShare, it was trying to work a little bit from the top down, but once people were remote and in their own homes, they started to work better together without a lot of coordination. And you also need to show real appreciation and concern for the staff through this all. So what lessons did I learn? Leadership is about people. Within that, reactions are different, both by the person as well as the specific situation. You have to be willing to interact and communicate with all, your local staff, but also the top levels of leadership, and make sure people are talking. You have to be willing to delegate and understand where the staff has the experience, has the ability, and want to take the reins. You also have to show empathy and understand people's concerns. But in a crisis, leadership requires more of a lot of things, more effort, but more emotional intelligence. You have to learn about yourself and others. You have to actively communicate and be engaged. You have to be decisive when we identify issues and make decisions. As in the Apollo 13, they were very flexible. They adjusted their plan and their goals. Suddenly, we're not going to the moon, we're getting these people back safely. And you have to be willing to jump onto those changes. And through it all, celebrate each small win. The Leadership Institute, I think, was really well timed with all these crises, and for me to help me in that growing and change from being just a manager into a leader. And with that, I will open the floor up for questions.
Did you do anything different? Did you do anything different to connect with people on a personal level?
Probably the best thing I did was we started out by having office conference calls multiple times a week, and I actually found it better to just individually call people. So we're now down to having that once a week office-wide call, but then just trying to call people individually, and then you can talk more about the non-work related things also.
And in the interest of time, Mike, we'll need to go to a wrap up now.
Okay, well, I'm going to wrap up with some thoughts from one of our great modern day philosophers, Mike Tyson. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. But you need to be ready because you never know what's going to come next as a leader. And with that, I will close. I really want to thank Rich as well as PENC for this opportunity and for all I've learned with the Leadership Institute. Thank you.
That's a great final thought there, Mike. Expect the unexpected. So true. Okay. Outstanding presentations. And now let's go to W.K. Dixon's Colleen Brophy and Troy Karski. The floor is yours.
Colleen, I think you are muted.
Thanks, Rich. Our project is providing epic recognition. I'm Colleen Brophy.
And I'm Troy Karski, and we're with W.K. Dixon.
Sorry. Did you know 40% of employees who do not feel meaningfully recognized will not go above their formal responsibilities?
Yet 85% of employees who feel meaningfully recognized will go above and beyond their formal responsibilities.
And 70% of workers are more motivated by non-monetary rewards at work. That's 70%.
So we looked around our office, and one of the things we've noticed is that certain things were going without any recognition. So promotions were happening. For the sake of this presentation, let's just say Joe received a promotion and Colleen and I wouldn't hear about it for a couple of months. So things like that, things like professional achievements, kind of, not necessarily announced. So people passing the PE, things, maybe a big conference, things like that weren't necessarily presented and really recognized very well. So our goal was to create an epic moment. And epic stands for emotionally uplifting,
Pride-inducing,
insight producing.
and connective. So you're probably sitting here thinking, why does this matter? This is so important for anyone who's at top leadership, for the whole company, or just within your small group. Creating more epic moments and making people feel more recognized creates greater satisfaction and enjoyment at work, increases productivity, reduces employee turnover, and creates higher profits and greater success for your company.
So like I mentioned, there's obviously some previous recognition that we saw at WK Dixon, and we had semi-annual office meetings where our office manager, Brian, would basically sit us down and kind of go over some numbers, and then we'd do some recognition for the major anniversaries. For example, someone just celebrated 35 years at WK Dixon, and I think they did a great job. They made a big deal about it, and let everyone know that in 1985 this person started WK Dixon, which is such a huge accomplishment.
And something else that they've recently implemented within the past 2 years are welcome packages. I've been with 3 other companies, and this is the first time I've seen something like this. When your first day, there's a welcome package at your desk, and it has all the company swag, like an umbrella and a tumbler and a coffee mug. And it's just really nice to immediately feel welcomed. And along with the package, they take you around the office, and it did such a good job of making you feel immediately as part of the family of WK Dixon. So we wanted to see how to improve epic moments. So we wanted to recognize more moments, as we stated. We wanted to celebrate passing the PE exam. As we know, this is such an important moment in our career, and it just screams as an epic moment. We want to celebrate the projects won. So as our company, we had been kind of doing this, but the major thing was we wanted to celebrate successful project closeouts too. This is so important because we always hear about projects we win, but we never get to celebrate, closing them out and completing and being successful. And provide additional kudos to people who've gone above and beyond on a project or even a task.
So back in December in the class, we were kind of spitballing ideas that we can find for a culmination project, and we noticed some, an easy opportunity to basically find more epic moments. So find these passing the PE, getting promotions, things like that weren't recognized. So in January, we went and talked to our president and our office manager and had a meeting with them, sat down, and they were very excited. And they basically directed us to meet with the HR and marketing. So we set up another meeting with HR and marketing, and they gave us a little bit more specifics, like, hey, here's what we're doing now, and here's some other cool things I think you could do. One of them, for example, they mentioned a newsletter, and they've been running really well with that. So from there, we had to redefine our recognition plan, and we had to present the plan to the overall management of the company. So there was a meeting in late February that went through, and all the management was there in our office for the entire company. So we were able to go and present a quick 10-minute presentation in front of them, and we got great reviews from it. And basically they said, hey, we've heard a lot of people saying we need more recognition, but no one has yet come up and said, this is how we should do it. So now we have a plan, and we're starting to implement this plan as we go forward and make sure that we are providing epic moments for all these big, important moments in our professional careers here.
So the plan that we decided to implement was, instead of semi-annual meetings, we wanted to have quarterly meetings. We had discussed monthly meetings, but we wanted to keep them special enough so quarterly was also attainable. And then that way we'd have more time throughout the year to talk about projects and other epic moments that could be celebrated. And then, as Troy said, the monthly newsletter, these give employee spotlights, gives a statement from the president and VP, and also highlights employees' epic moments. I know our coworker Ben just had his baby girl, and it was nice to see him in the June newsletter that just came out. We have a welcome screen when you first walk in, and that screen usually shows anniversaries, but we got a lot of feedback from other coworkers that they look at that a lot. And so we want to utilize that for all other types of achievements. And then we wanted to have a shared Excel sheet of recognition that everyone could add to, so there could kind of be a ongoing list that could be utilized for the quarterly meeting to talk about achievements. But as we know, COVID-19 happened, and some of these parts of the plan really were dependent on being in the office, and that doesn't uphold social distancing. So what actually happened was the monthly newsletter emails actually did continue going out. The June one was just delivered. I have noticed that there's more direct emails of kudos, either company-wide or even in the team, and a very large increase of social media awareness and kudos of ongoing projects and successful project closeouts.
So some of the lessons learned is, creating epic moments is an easy way to increase productivity. And, our goal was to provide something that was emotionally uplifting, made you feel good, pride-inducing, insight providing, so you had a chance to see what the other groups are doing and see the whole clock in action and make sure it's connective, so that we are connecting as one entire group. And this small little bit of recognition really goes a long way. It's a relatively easy thing for the the office manager or someone higher up to just give a quick shout out, stand up and let people know, hey, this person did some great work and they deserve a kudos, basically. And one of the challenges with us is interconnectivity through the office is important for camaraderie. We have 4 different groups basically going on, and we don't talk all that much, and being able to get these emails and get obviously there's no meetings anymore, but the meetings were supposed to help basically let you know what everyone else is doing and you kind of feel on the same page with everyone else.
Questions?
I love your thought how doing this is really easy, but it's a matter of remembering to do it. Investing that thought and a little bit of effort can go a long way. Thank you so much for that. We are running up against the 1 o'clock hour. We got a minute left, so let me let you go into your final thought. We'll stay online for anyone out there who'd like to ask further questions. But how about a quick wrap up, Colleen and Troy? Outstanding presentation. Thank you.
So as a final thought, just don't be afraid of change. If there's something you see out there that needs to be changed, then go ahead and try and change it.
And we challenge you to find people who deserve recognition and recognize them in an epic way.
Thanks, everyone.
That was an epic presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Wow. Outstanding presentations. I can't tell you how proud I am of what you've done. I know it takes a lot of work to do these things, And well done, group. Well done. Proud of you. Okay, thank you so much for coming. It just turned 1 o'clock. We will stay online for any of you who have questions. But thank you so much for tuning in. And thanks to all of you graduates for your efforts this past year. That wraps up the PENC Leadership Institute for 2019 and 2020. We'll be back in the fall, and we're going to do it online. And we're going to have a special focus: leading during crises, leading remotely. Thanks, everybody.
All right, your PDH certificate and NC Bell survey will be emailed to you this afternoon. We will stay online for anyone that has additional questions. Otherwise, thank you all for attending today. Our next webinar is next week, June 24th, all in this together: resilience and climate change as design considerations. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, Katie. Katie, were there any questions that were asked online?